Video showing you how to construct portfolios for your product design submission or for a client for looking for jobs, things like that. It's just a quick introduction, so it won't take long. So I'll just come over this. Right, so if you're going to make a portfolio, a good place to start for looking for inspiration is a website called Issue. So it's just a collection of magazines and portfolios created by everyday people, students and professionals as well. So you can create an account and save the ones that you like if you want, but to start you just search for product design in the top, or industrial design or graphics, whatever you're doing. And then you can search for ones that you like. There's absolutely thousands, and you can narrow them down by location. So if you wanted the UK, to see what kind of competition you're going up against, things like that. So I found this one by this designer, which I absolutely love because it's really simple, it's really quick, it's to the point, and she communicates what she does really well. So nice, simple, abstract photograph of what she does up close. It's not giving away too much, but you can see it's some kind of furniture piece. Obviously, a name and what she does in there. I don't mind this. So she's just got a little photograph showing you who she is. Some people don't agree about doing that, but personally I don't mind. A little bit of an introduction as to who she is, how old she is, what she likes to do, where she studied, things like that. And then she's straight into the portfolio. We know to share a few details about the materials, when it was made, some of the dimensions. She would credit the photographer, but it's her own photograph. A little bit about the brief and the project and some of the research she's done. Now, I really like this because obviously this is a two-page spread, but she's got a photograph of the work, a real photograph, not a render. Now you can tell in the portfolio I'm going to show you that the difference between a render and a photograph. Now, to me, this shows that you're able to work in the workshop as well as in the studio, which is a really valuable skill set to have. And I like these photographs of the little details. And this shows the level of care that she's got when she's creating things. It's not just put together without a care in the world. She really pays attention to the little details, which is good. And then she just gives some, technical drawings to show some of the dimensions and how it would be put together. And then I really like these little mood boards that people do, just to give some insight into how she's got to where she's got to at the minute. So, some of the curved wood that's been sanded down, different types of joints and shapes and stuff like that. So this is how it would come disassembled, perhaps if it was an IKEA chair or something like that. So she's aware of how it's going to be transported and shipped and put together. It's not just about the end product, and that's a really good skill set to have because it's easy just to make a product, but it might be absolutely awful to ship. It might be too heavy, it might break, so you have to be considerate about that. But showing things like that is really good for a submission or for an employer. And photographs of the work in the workshop is really good. Like, again, coming back to that skill set of being able to work with materials in real life and being able to understand what the material capabilities are, as well as knowing how things actually work and come together, because that's a really good skill set to have. This next project, is obviously a kid's project, but what I like about this image, which is better than the other one, because it's showing the client using the product in the way it was intended, which is really good. Getting real user feedback from the people you're designing for is absolutely critical. But showing that in the portfolio and not putting on too much text, I think is quite important. Because if for a submission, I think it's fine because they have to read it and you might have to explain some things. But for a design agency or something like that, they're going to flip through the portfolio like this. They're not going to have time to read, so you have to communicate the story through images, materials, things like that. So again, same sort of layout as the other one. And this is, I believe it looks like a kid using the product. And then again, technical drawings, how it's put together. Using the product again on display. I perhaps would have put something different there. That doesn't really add anything to me. But if it was for a student submission, in that case, it would be fine because that's showing that it was actually on display and it was part of an exhibition, which in itself is another skill set which is quite useful. This one isn't product design related, but you can see how, again, she's got this hero image. That's a keyword that you should be taking note of. Hero image. This is the one that needs to sell it. It's a little bit abstract, which I think in this case is fine. And then this is more of a flyby view. Technical drawings, some renders of how people would use it, how people would walk through the foot traffic, and some quick renders of the inside, and model making again. And again, this is the kids using the product, a little bit about it, and they're really happy, which is good. Another hero image. Got a sore throat. So this is an exhibition stand again, hero image, people using it. Now these, it's a bit difficult to see, but these have clearly been photoshopped in, but they've been done really well. Now that's another video that I can go into compositing images together. She's added a bit of motion blur to give a sense of movement. Another one, oh god, inspiration again, things like that, artworks, natural occurring objects, more art. So you can tell that this is quite an abstract product. But what I like about this portfolio is she's telling the story without using a lot of words. She's communicating through images and of her rendering a couple of sketches or people using it. I think that's been photoshopped again. But that's what's important. That's why I've shown you this, because she's telling a story. I get a sense of who she is, what she's capable of doing, where her skills lie, the kind of thinking that she brings to the product design industry. And then at the end, she's got a CV. Now, I quite like the idea of putting a CV, not for a submission for a student, but just in general. I think that's a good idea. However, I don't think you should ever do these kind of bars for skill sets because that's what this is implying is picking design. She's saying, I'm assuming this is 100%. I'm 100% good at InDesign. Now that doesn't mean anything at all. I'm 70% good at Illustrator. The way you rate yourself does not reflect the way professionals rate your skills. So you might think you're an absolute boss at InDesign, but then when you go for an interview and you get the job, you might actually find that they think you're terrible because their level is so much higher than you. There's no way of knowing, or it might be the other way around. And you might be right, you might be really good, and they might be terrible. It's unlikely, but I don't think you should ever do things like that. Just put what your skills are. I would never put these bars, but apart from that, this is really good. So I understand. Well, I've gotten everything I need to know about her and how she works, which is good. And she's barely put any text in there apart from a little description, which is something you should aim for. So when you're doing your portfolios, add a hero image, whether it's a sketch or a render, give it a little bit about the brief and how you've got there, and then include some technical drawings, your sketches, but show the story. How did you get from starting with the problem to the end product? And then at the end, add some images, either it's renders or physical models. Now, I understand it's a little bit different now given the current scenario with the COVID, but it is what it is. Ideally, it'd be better to have real products, but in this kind of scenario, I think a render or a really well done sketch is probably fine. And then another website to find portfolios is Behance. Now, this is similar to Issuu, however, it just appears to be one product portfolios instead of like a show reel of everything that you can do. But you can still take inspiration from this. So this is clearly a render. Now, if we go back to this, you can tell that this isn't a render. There's little details that make it look like it was on in a photographic studio. Whereas you look on here, there's no imperfections whatsoever. The materials don't look quite right, but as a render, it's absolutely brilliant. But you can tell the difference. But I'll get onto that in a second. So this is one product portfolio by a guy called James. So hero image again, different layout, but essentially the same thing. Bit of text about what he's doing. And this is really good, especially for student submissions. Starting with a problem, because it's easy to design a product. What is interesting and what takes the skills is finding a problem and fixing the problem using product design. So it's identified a problem, different triggers and things like that. He's summarized it. He hasn't put loads and loads of pages. It's just, right, here's the problem. I'll expand on it a little bit, and this is what I'm going to do. So then this is a really good idea of writing down some keywords that he's come as a result of looking at his research. So inviting, informative, and engaging. And he's given a little mood board as to what those words can mean in terms of materials or colours, textures, and forms. That's a really good starting point. So then he said, "What's the solution?" So, again, a render. You can tell it's a render, but it's a nice one. And then he's added some sketches. He's not put reams and reams of sketches. This portfolio will be more of a summary booklet. It would be a good idea to scan in all your sketches, put them in chronological order, starting with your research and then your sketches and then what you've done in the end, and then do a summary booklet, just summarising of the key points, key things in the research, key sketches that, with a little bit of text perhaps. And here again, this can be done in this whole lockdown situation. If you have a printer, a 3D printer, you could prototype some things and just take some quick photographs on your desk. Although it's a terrible print, it's quite good that he's laid out his prototyping in terms of how it would be made. I think that's dead good, putting it together. Again, hero image. Now this is an example of a Photoshop composite. So it looks like he's taken a photograph of this model put together with his hand and then rendered the image with the same lighting in the same direction and then just removed the old one and added this. Now you can tell, but it's a really good example of doing that because this is quite difficult to do, especially when the lighting's difficult. Some details of the insides of it and how it would work. Again, that shows you're aware of how things work and not just giving things a skin. You're really aware of that, which is really good. An app, because why not? Everyone does an app these days. Showing you how that works. Branding, imagery. It's probably not what you should be doing in product design, but I mean, it's fine. I don't know where this guy studied or anything, but. And then right at the end, he's got some packaging with manuals, the inhaler itself, and then the medical, the drug, which I think is really good. Now, yeah, like I said, this would be a good summary booklet for some of the work that you're doing, but otherwise, you could take the same kind of style and apply it to the all of the content. So you could have a nice hero image to start with a problem, but expand on it in the next couple of pages. Do a couple of mood boards and then expand on them, like a summary page of mood boards. And then expand on all these sketches, expand on your model making, expand on the final renders, and explain exactly how you've come to get to the point that you are. But he's telling the story, although it's different to this girl. They're both telling the story, but in a different way. Now, what you can do with websites like this is, if you're struggling for layouts and you're not sure, I've got the content, but how do I lay it out? So just type in this again. We'll just pick this one. So for layout, she's got a really small box in the middle with some of the details on the front. Oh, him, sorry. Is CV. Like the contents page, you could take inspiration from having large numbers with small slithers of images with text like that. So you could just take inspiration from that and copy it in InDesign, maybe tweak it a bit to what you like. So if we go, like he's got two images here, two smaller images, and then a couple of others there. You could just sketch that out in a little notebook and just remember that, right, I like that one. I'll come back to that in InDesign and I'll recreate that. It's probably not the best example, but even with this one, you've got a hero image on one side, smaller image, color on the left, and a bit of text. Now you can copy that layout in InDesign, which I'm going to show you now. So to start with InDesign, create a new document, Command or Shift, Control N, or here. So landscape, A4 size, 50 is fine to start with. Now what you can do is, just to show you, we turn the preview on. So this is what it's going to look like. Now columns, this is really good. So when you're doing portfolios, you don't want text going all the way across because that just looks terrible. It's a good idea to use columns like in a magazine style, so the text would only go as wide as that and go down. The margin, which is here, is 12.7. That's the way it's set. Just leave that as it is. Now the margin is this. I can't show you. This line here, or this box. So what that tells you is any text or images, it's mainly for text. Keep your text inside of these boxes, this big box, sorry, because when it's printed, if it will be printed, when you've got a big stack of paper, the guillotine comes down and trims the edge just to neaten it for you to create like a nice, neat edge of a book. Now that is not 100% accurate. There's a margin of error because of the way paper folds. So what actually happens is this might be 1mm in or 2, and then towards the back it's aligned perfectly. But if you put your text right up to the edge in page 1 and it's 2mm off inwards, your text is going to get cut off, which is not great. So just leave that. Put your text and images inside of here, but there's an exception to the images, which I'll get onto. Now you bleed. This is this red line on the outside, which I'll explain now. So let's imagine you want something like this. You want a blue bar. Oh, actually, let's copy that girl's portfolio. So let's just say you want something like that lady has with a portfolio. You've got text here and then a couple of images. That looks fine here, but when you print it out, like I said, there's a margin of error when they're trimming the pages. So if it looks like this, that's great, but then when you get it sent from the printers, because there was a margin of error, the guillotine might not have trimmed it exactly where it needed to be trimmed. So then you end up with this hideous white line, which looks terrible, and there's a lack of continuity between pages because some might be like this and then some might be perfect. There's no way of knowing, so for that reason, we always do that and bring out any colors or images, which I'll explain in a sec, to this bleed line. Now that ensures that if the guillotine chops it here, you're still going to get blue to the edge of the paper. Now you can do that with images. I said keep them in the boxes unless you've got like a full size image that you want to take up the entire page. That's an exception as to when you would do that. So in InDesign, to create or to add images and text, we've got what we call container boxes. So these container boxes, if I'll just download this. Where is it? You just drag them in. Now obviously it doesn't look great. So what you do is you go to properties on the right, and then you go down to here. So this fills it like that. So that fills it, but if you click on there, you can see the images going there to there. But if you want it to fill to the width of the box, you click this one, and it does that. So now you've got an image within this box, like that. So obviously you can resize that, and then you'll have to click that again. But that's the way it works. So if you wanted text in columns, you just create a container box to the size of that column, and then just fill it with your text. Same with colors, same with images. So let's say you've got 50 pages. Let's get rid of all that. And you don't want to have to keep adding one here, one here, one for the title every time, 50 times. That's not efficient. So the best way to do it is if you go at the top here, you see A master. If you click that, double click it. This is setting the master slide up. So if you go like this, there, and then go back to properties, fill it with blue, add a text box, type portfolio, make it white. Yes, I should have clicked. Oh. Helvetica, bold. There, so we got that. That's our title that we're going to edit. Actually, no, sorry. My bad. In the master, sorry, you just drag and text box and just leave it there. Like that. Because you're going to add different text every time. So I'll show you what I mean. So if I type in portfolio, and then we go back to our pages, come off the master, we can see on every page now we've got this. Now obviously every page isn't going to contain portfolio, but we can't edit that. I'm trying to click. So the best thing to do is just drag the text box out where you want it to be, and then you can add the text in afterwards. But as you can see, we've got the colour on every page, so that saves a lot of time and effort. But you can do that go back to the master. You can do that for the hero image, create a container box, and then you just drag your images in. Now you can see on every page now we've got that. But you can just copy the layouts from the portfolios on Behance or Issue and fill the content with your own, but make sure you're telling a story. That's the most important thing. And then this would be the front, obviously. So yeah, that was just a quick, well, it wasn't quick, it's 25 minutes, but it was just an introduction into making portfolios. I hope that helps. Thanks for watching.